Hello and welcome to the 40th Annual FUN Fly-In and Exposition here at the Lakeland Linder Regional Airport. I'm Ben Coleman, one of your hosts here at the Florida Aviation Network. And as usual, we have some very compelling stories, compelling guests, and some actually wonderful information to share with you about good things going on in aviation. And if you're not able to be here at the FUN Fly-In, enjoy some of this footage that you're going to see and enjoy some of the people that you're going to meet. If you can get here, please do. We do this every year, and it's always a good thing to see new faces and new bright people coming in that we could share this passion and our just the industry with you. Today, we're fortunate to have two guests here on the set. Mr. Steve Purello.
Thank you very much, Ben.
With Angel Flight, and Chairman and CEO and
volunteer pilot.
We also have
James Jordan,
James Jordan, called Jim.
Correct.
Yeah, I saw James on the shot sheet. Gentlemen, welcome to the set here at Florida Aviation Network. And Angel Flight is something of a term that everybody knows of. They've heard it. Oh, they're on an Angel Flight. But what is an Angel Flight? Tell me about that. What is an Angel Flight, Steve?
Well, Angel Flight Southeast arranges free flights for children and adults when they have to go long distances for medical help. It's unusual chronic diseases, typically, something that the local hospital has no cure for, but there is a test program somewhere that's maybe 600, 700, 800 miles away, and that person may need to go there very many times to be able to get that treatment. Our pilots, our volunteer pilots who donate their time and their fuel and their airplanes, will pick up that person at their very local airport, maybe only 5 minutes away, fly them to be able to get that appointment, often even wait while they get that appointment, and fly them back so they can be back in their beds even the same night.
Well, it sounds like a Herculean effort to keep track of all of this going on. And when you say free and volunteer, how do you keep that safety element in there? Because we are a safety organization. How do you keep the safety involved? Because I know you have an excellent safety record for these Angel Flights. And how do you maintain it? It's just the quality of the individuals or the integrity of the folks that come to you? I mean, because you said free and volunteer. Well, that rules out about 98% of the normal population, because they're not going to do anything out of their pocket, and they want to get paid for it. But and volunteer, there's nothing more valuable, nothing more priceless than a person's time. So how do you take care of that?
You know, the volunteer pilots that volunteer for us are just unbelievable people. They not only have the capacity to write a check, but they will take that time to actually fly an airplane and get out there and do this work. Many of them 30, 40, 50 missions in a year. And these are guys generally, and forgive me, but there are some ladies as well.
Gender neutral.
Generally.
Masculine implies feminine as well. Okay.
There you go. And they've done well enough to be able to own their own airplane, many times 2 or 3, and have built up the flight experience as well as the time to be able to take off from their work, or probably more than 30 or 40% of them are actually retired and have thousands of hours of experience in their own airplane. Usually even single pilot, but possibly bring along a spouse or a co-pilot with them. The safety records, we go ahead and screen them and ask them for quite a bit of information, not only when they get started, but on an annual basis. And we're thrilled with some of the tools that both the FAA and the AOPA Safety Foundation has provided us recently, so that they can do things like take courses to be able to stay up on the latest and greatest in decision making. And it's important when I say decision making, in that it is very much up to that particular pilot to decide whether they want to take that flight on that day. None of these are emergency missions. They're chronic conditions, and they're people that have some unusual illness, They're not going to die within the next few hours, but if they don't go to these regular treatments, they will die in the next few months. So in their worst case scenario, if we do have a mechanical issue, if there is a weather issue, or if the pilot's just not feeling up to it that day, the pilot doesn't feel that pressure and can certainly just ask the patient to move the appointment to the next day and make sure that we're perfectly safe.
And that's and it sounds to me like there's a very, very clear, bright line between the management aspect and the operational aspect. You more or less coordinate the flights and the network of systems, and you facilitate getting information to the pilots, of course. And you have to have some type of an operational method. How is your primary source of communication? Is it telephone, email, competition of both, Pony Express, personal visit? How do you manage that?
Thank you. There were a few questions in there. So the first one I'm glad you brought up. Our mission is to arrange these flights. So once that arrangement is set up, what we're doing is we're pairing up the pilot and the passenger patient so that they then can take it from there, and the decision making and such are set up. But it is a very complicated process to get to that point. We use a special software that's been put together. It manages the records of 650 pilots just in the Southeast alone. And it also manages 3,000 missions a year that our air traffic controllers, just one paid staff and the rest are volunteer, can go ahead and put these flights together, which frankly often get moved because the doctor will say I'm busy or the patient might not be feeling well, and we start that process all over again.
How in the world, you say 3,000 flights a year?
3,000 missions a year, yes.
And that's just the Southeast?
Correct.
And how many different Angel flights are there? Are there Southeast? I'm thinking Northeast?
Right, we're Angel Flight Southeast, and so we are in charge of Florida. And what that means is if somebody lives in Florida and they need to go to one of the other states, it's up to us as part of our agreement with the larger air charity network to be able to arrange that flight. By being part of the air charity network, we all have very similar systems and standards and software that can allow us to connect to one of the others, let's say Angel Flight South Central, or maybe even as far as Angel Flight West, to be able to have somebody go as far as 1,000 miles with 2 or 3 different legs. And of course, that gets to be a fairly complicated process that we manage every day.
And well, you bring up the point as far as the long legs. What is the highest performance aircraft that you have used for Angel flights?
And I'm smiling because we have pilots that fly 172s and do a very nice job of flying 172s each day, all the way up to a gentleman who flies a Citation 10 and will take passengers back and forth and flies quite a bit. We try not to have any one leg be more than about 200 to 300 nautical miles, so they're not flying too far in one direction to have to come back home. But our lucky jet and turbine operators frequently will take those 2 or 3 leg missions that might be that 700, 800, 900 miles and prefer to do all of them in one shot.
What a task.
Yeah.
And I know it's we associate aviation with enjoyment, and pleasure, and fun, but when you're dealing with some of your passengers and some of the pilots, and then we're going to get into talking with Jim about some of the day-to-day in the grind, in the trenches, how it goes. But it's a very, very worthwhile operation that you share. But at the same time, it's got to be just heartbreaking because you form these relationships with people that they're probably not going to be here much longer. So, Jim, let me give you a chance to jump in here and tell me, how do you safeguard yourself and what keeps you going to help these people?
Well, Ben and I did grow up in a lower income family, and it was a Lions Club that kept me in classes from the 3rd grade to the 7th grade, and I felt it was time to give back and do Angel Flight. I've been able to do that, giving back to those in need there. And speaking of the passengers, many times you may take a passenger several times, like for a liver evaluation, and then you have the chance to take them for the liver transplant, and you may get to know them. And some survive and some do not afterwards there. And you do get to know these people, you see them every day, but I do want to step back one moment and state that these people are very optimistic, very positive, very thankful, and so it's always it's uplifting to take these people to the facilities for the services there. But for me personally, when I hear that one of the patients has passed, there is an empty spot in my heart there that they did not make it there, because you do get to know them well and when you are flying them for treatments there.
Well, but it takes a special person and a special pilot to want to dedicate their time and efforts. And how in the world, with over 650 folks that you keep track of, Steve, like Jim, how do you screen to make sure that you have the right pilot for the mission? And I don't want to learn your secret handshake, but there's got to be some type of a method. Do you use a ranking system? Because not all pilots are created equal, and there's some that are superstars, like you say, they fly 50 missions a year, and others that maybe one or two. And how do you keep track of your go-to guys and gals out there? And if you can't answer it, this is live, this is impromptu, but feel free to dodge it and say,
don't need to dodge it all.
You can't go there. I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you.
The more I can tell you about the mission, the better.
Good.
We keep our standards very low in the sense of what we expect of our pilots, and that's really, even though our pilots are incredible and they don't necessarily need that, so we do things such as we never take any missions that need more than 500 pounds, and that's including 50 pounds of soft luggage. So if they exceed that, then they're screened out. We can't take flights that somebody calls us up and says, tomorrow I need a flight. Well, it takes us a couple of weeks to be able to actually check the passenger out, much less the pilot. And when we do that, we make sure that they're stable. We make sure that they're not pregnant, past a certain period of time, that they don't get airsick, that we actually go to both of their doctors, and one of their doctors needs to sign a waiver, fairly long, sophisticated waiver, that says this person is okay to fly in an unpressurized aircraft for a certain number of hours, sitting upright, and I feel will be safe to take that flight. So what we try to do is make it very easy for the pilots. This is not by any means an emergency or an air ambulance, and we make it very clear to our passengers that it's not that. No doctors on board, no nurses on board. If they need care in some way in flight, we cannot and will not do it. These are meant for chronic conditions. Oxygen, that's fine, and maybe most importantly, you will find people that are not only needing it because there's a financial need and the convenience of being able to bring somebody hundreds of miles, 20, 30, 40 times over the course of a year. But some are told that their immune systems are not good enough to be on a commercial flight and taking in all of the germs that are circulated through commercial flight. And a private aircraft is perfect for that sort of thing.
What started this concept? What's the history between Angel Flight and where it came from? I mean, at some point somebody had to sit around and say, there needs to be a system or a network of folks that just want to help out and volunteer their time and their airplanes to fly folks that are needing assistance. Where did it come from?
Sure. In 1983, so this is our 31st anniversary of doing this, Mary Webb, a retiree, had started it in Fort Myers, and she did it with a book that we still have today at her kitchen table, flying a number of the missions herself. She'd write in the book when somebody would call in and ask, and she'd call a friend to get them to do it. And over the years, of course, 31 years, we've gotten ourselves into nice, sophisticated, computer systems that'll do this. But Mary had heard of it starting with an organization in Nevada, and as they were growing, had signed up to be able to do the same thing. And from there on, it's just been a fantastic organization ever since.
And how many different regions are there?
There are 6 different regions that make up the Air Charity Network. Now, there's many volunteer pilot organizations that are smaller and not connected into the Air Charity Network that do great work. But we're so proud to be part of the Air Charity Network because we all have an agreement with each other so that we don't step on each other's toes, so that we understand what the boundaries are, so that we have the same sort of limitations, and maybe most importantly, the air traffic controllers are set up on the same system, and so they can either IM each other, call each other, email each other, pretty much 24/7 to be able to have these flights seamlessly go back and forth.
And how is your relationship with the federal authorities? Because I'm sure that there's some eyes that are watching to make sure that it's not considered a charter operation. And how do you keep yourself positioned with those type of questions?
Sure. I mean, we're so happy that there is an organization that is sophisticated as the FAA, and that they have set up the infrastructure, enabled us to be able to fly these missions. Angel Flight Southeast mission is to arrange the flights, and it is up to the pilot to make sure that they are up to the currency standards of the FAA, so that they are going to make sure that they conduct a safe flight. The decision-making courses that the FAA's instituted and put together, as well as the AOPA Safety Foundation, have been fantastic. And we really applaud the FAA for 2 years ago putting together a program to incentivize volunteer pilot organizations with a fuel reimbursement exemption, in which if the pilots want to be even safer than they already are with the minimum standards that are put forth for volunteer pilot organizations, they can participate in a reimbursement of fuel if they choose to do so. So we really applaud the FAA for what they've done.
And that does help offset the operating costs if somebody wants to do something to help, but just share a little bit of the burden because they're paying the insurance, taxes, hangar tie down, maintenance, but just a little bit of kick in for the fuel is fair. Jim, I was just noticing your beautiful shirt there. If I wanted to get a ride in Crazy Horse, what would I have to do?
Right now, Ben, we're having a raffle. Angel Flight's having a raffle. Stallion 51 Squadron was gracious enough to give 1 hour of flight time in a P-51 to Angel Flight to raffle off there. We're having a raffle right now where an individual for $20 can enter the raffle to win a 1 hour flight in a P-51 Mustang. I never win anything, and 2 years ago, Ben, I bought 6 raffle tickets and forgot about it. I said, well, so be it. And I get a call from Steve saying, Jim, guess what? You won there. So it, 2 years ago, I was a winner of the raffle, and I had an awesome opportunity to go and take a 1 hour flight in a P-51 Mustang with Stallion 51.
Did Lee Louderback, was he flying you, or who was?
It was John Black, one of their instructors who flew me there, and I had a chance to meet one of the red tail pilots prior to flying the P-51, but it was so great to go back. This plane that was designed long before I was ever born, just the infinite. I'm a mechanical engineer, and just these systems were phenomenal. But the aircraft flew very smoothly. But the amazing thing about it was that when the wheels left the ground, the plane was mine. And the instructor just took me through everything. We went through loops, rolls, wingovers, aileron rolls, every gamut of flying you could do in the P-51 we went through.
It's a Cadillac in the sky, isn't it?
It is a Cadillac in the sky, to say the least.
And we're thrilled that anybody who's been helping us out by purchasing those raffle tickets and helping the mission of Angel Flight Southeast. But this was a particular treat that one of our top pilots,
that's great.
Somebody who's so generous, was able to win it as well and get that thrill. He was like a kid.
It just so happens, and this is for the guys out in the truck saying, "Oh, Ben's going to do it again. He's going to hold up a little piece of paper and expect Jack on camera 1 to zoom in on him." And right about now, they're saying, "Jack, wake up," because Ben's going to hold up a piece of paper, and Jack's going to jump on it, and he's going to zoom in, and we're going to show you what are we going to be looking at here as soon as they get everything.
Sure. This is a postcard that was put together to let people know about the raffle. I'm so very happy and with the contributions of Neil Glazier, the gentleman who owns Pilot Mall. He is one of our board members and a significant contributor to the organization. And we had 5,000 of these printed up And each person that is purchasing something at one of the pilot mall, the 6 pilot mall locations at Sun and Fun, was getting one of these put in their bag to just let them know about the raffle. We're not selling any of these on site, but just letting them know about it. So we're very thankful to Pilot Mall and Neil Glazier.
Well, that's actually pretty good odds, to be honest with you. 5,000 of these are going out, but how many tickets do you have to sell?
We have a limit of 5,000 tickets, so you know that the worst case scenario.
There you go.
Yes.
But I hope, and do you have to be, where can you go to enter this raffle?
At angelflightse.org/events or angelflightse.org, and you'll find events on there.
How about if we're not quick enough, and we're on the website now, we have it on the bottom of the screen, but for those folks that are listening in our audience, and usually you're kind of safe if they were to Google this, what would they Google?
I could do two things.
Could they do Mustang Flight, Angel Flights?
I haven't tried it, honestly. I know they'll find our website if they put in Angel Flight Southeast. They're also welcome, and I haven't made my pitch yet for pilots, but frankly, we're always looking for more pilots. And if a pilot or somebody being interested in the raffle were to call 800-352-4256, operators are standing by for both pilot applications, or if they were interested in purchasing a raffle ticket.
So there's multiple different ways that they could get it if they want it. But to be honest with you, for $20, if somebody had 40, 60, 80 bucks that they wanted to give it a shot,
it's 6 for 100, as a matter of fact. So they can get a discount.
What a deal!
By getting $100.
What a deal!
Yeah.
Where does this money go?
It goes toward the mission of coordinating these flights.
Okay.
So, and you know, we have incredible numbers, frankly, because of the generosity of the pilots. The last tax return we finished and put out there, we had $2.5 million worth of flights going directly into the hands of needy passengers over that year. And basically what that means is for every dollar that comes into the organization, normally a charity would be able to bring back maybe 25 or 30 cents, possibly 50 cents. We actually bring back about $10, a multiple. So every dollar brings back $10 to the end recipient because of the generosity of the pilots.
That's very unusual math,
Yes, it is.
dealing with
So very proud of it as well.
nonprofit. But what a vital link, because if we didn't have folks like you doing what you're doing, and again, it's just another avenue of aviation that uses it for the good of mankind, and it's such a kind and generous thing that you're sharing with us. What else can we develop to help you? Because right now we're taking some footage and hopefully reaching out to hundreds, thousands. I'm not going to go up to the millions right now, but a lot of folks out there are going to be listening and watching this. What can we do to help you with your business?
Thank you so much. We're always talking in promotion terms as far as passengers. So not enough people know about this. If I go to an aviation show, an air show, people will know about Angel Flight Southeast. But if I go to just a public show, not enough people know. And often people will say, if I had only known, we could have used your services. So for passengers, we're always looking to get the word out. For a place like Sun and Fun, pilots. We've talked about the aging of the pilot population and the need for pilots. And I don't think we felt it as much in Florida because this is where you'll come to retire and maybe continue flying your airplane. But in the rest of the country, for sure, and certainly for us as well.
I'm glad you said continue to fly airplanes. You come here to retire and die. That's no, don't say that, Steve. So, but no, they do retire. They fly a lot as long as they can. And Florida is a very, very interesting place as far as demographics, because there's a lot of young folks. Because there's a lot of activities, sport activities, water sports. The sun, unfortunately, that's going to pay off on me someday. With all the cancer they're going to cut off of me. But I was born and raised in Orlando, Central Florida, so I'm a Florida boy. But it's there's an awful lot of people that want to come to Florida as well, and that gives you not only Florida but your other 4 states, the Southeast. That gives you that much more pickings of folks to help you do your missions.
Yes.
What more can what avenues do you use right now for advertisement other than trade publications, television? I don't know if that probably be a little bit too expensive for you to use as far as a media, but what other forms of advertising do you put out there?
Yeah, so on trying to keep a budget, we do it as targeted as possible. When we're looking for passengers, we have a database of the 644 facilities that are in our region that we actually get information to the social workers to let them know, because that's typically who a patient would go to when they're not sure where to turn for transportation for medical help. As far as pilots are concerned, you know, the aviation community is just so good to us. A number of publishers, and I hate to even mention one because I need to mention all of them.
True.
Have been just absolutely fantastic in promoting this raffle for us. Stallion 51 is another excellent example of going ahead and donating, you know, this flight for us to be able to raise funds. And you know, if the general public is willing to give us the time and airspace, I certainly will take it. Radio, television, very much appreciate, you know, your time and having us up here to be able to get the word out.
What is your typical profile as far as length of flight? Like you mentioned, North Carolina, Raleigh-Durham area,
Sure.
Duke University, Emory. I'm sure you go a lot of flights
Absolutely.
to Atlanta.
Yes.
And how about the other way around? Because here in Lakeland we have a pretty good cancer research center.
Yes.
So, what's the shortest flight that you've taken that you know of? Because I know we all talk about the length and the duration and the long flight. Wow, we're going all the way to Carolinas, but what's the shortest flight that you've had for an Angel Flight mission?
We have a 100 nautical mile minimum flight, except when it's over water. And so the Bahamas comes into play every once in a while. So that's 56 miles, you know, for Bimini, right? And so occasionally we'll do that sort of flight. But Tampa is actually our #1 destination with Moffitt Cancer Center. They're the 3rd largest cancer center in the U.S., a lot of research. And so people want to come from all over the country to come to Moffitt.
And would they do that? Would they hopscotch around the country on a lot of short flights if they want to come from Oregon?
Oregon, we would rely on one of our commercial partners to try and get them a flight because it's over our 1,000-mile limit for general aviation.
Okay. How
but
about Baton Rouge?
Baton Rouge, absolutely. Then we
Okay.
can use GA for sure.
So you'd skirt around the Gulf.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any special call signs that you use? And are they required to travel IFR or can it be VFR?
Good. So we require IFR in any state except Florida. Florida, we allow it. Frankly, it's a lot easier, as any IFR pilot will tell you, to generally fly IFR anyway, but they have that flexibility to do otherwise. I missed the other question. What was the other?
VFR and
I got
Jim,
caught
you were
up on
listening?
that one.
Yeah, we're length of the mission coming from. Would you hopscotch across the nation? And I'm trying to retrace my thoughts
I know. I'm
here.
so sorry. I got off on that one. But
You got me all excited when talking to IFR.
that's right. That's right.
But VFR in Florida only is the state
Yes.
that they.
Yes,
You
we
don't have to
recommend
be on a flight
flying.
plan.
Yes.
Do you advertise or encourage flight watch?
Oh, you asked me what symbol we use. So,
Yes.
when you're on an active Angel Flight mission, Angel Flight Southeast mission, then the FAA allows us to use NGF in front of their tail number. So if the last 3 of your tail number are 12 Papa, then it would be NGF 12 Papa that you file. The controllers will then know it'll be Angel Flight 12 Papa, and boy, do we get shortcuts. I mean, they're
Boy,
just
excellent.
particularly, I can't say enough about Florida air traffic control. I mean, we will get 100, 150 mile straight legs directly to an airport. They're amazing. If we're doing a transplant mission, the FAA has now asked us, we call ourselves medevac, and the way we're medevac is you put an L in front of your entire tail number. I know it's a little unusual, and then
Interesting.
we'll get even more shortcuts. In fact, you know, they'll move other traffic out of our way to be able to
Wow.
do those.
Well, Steve and Jim, it's such a pleasure
And thank you so
to have you and learn about your operations and organizations. Keep that Cherokee 6260 going.
You bet.
And thank you for joining us here. And thank you for joining us there. See you next.